Admiral Frank Gibson stood alone by the massive viewing window on the bridge of the UES Dauntless. His gray eyes reflected the endless stars spread before him. After 50 years of service, this moment felt unreal. Humanity was about to challenge the mightiest power in the known galaxy. "Sir, final system checks complete," said Lieutenant Susan Miller, her voice breaking the silence. She handed him a digital tablet showing green status indicators across all systems. Gibson nodded. "And the fleet?" "All 320 vessels in position, sir. The stealth destroyers from Neptune just arrived. We're at full strength." Gibson allowed himself a small smile. The Varaxian Empire had ruled over 1,000 worlds for centuries. They had found Earth 2 generations ago, offering friendship and technology. That mask had soon dropped, revealing their true purpose: to slowly drain Earth of resources and reduce humans to second-class citizens in their own solar system. But they had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated human determination. "Open a channel to all ships," Gibson ordered. The communications officer nodded, and a small light turned green. "This is Admiral Gibson. Today we stand at the crossroads of history. For 30 years, we've prepared in secret for this moment. Every ship, every weapon, every advance we've made has led us here." He paused, thinking of the countless nights working in hidden bases on Mars and Europa. The scientists who had taken alien technology and pushed it beyond what even its creators thought possible. The Varaxians believe they know us. They believe we are primitive, predictable, and weak. Today, they learn how wrong they are. On the main view screen, Gibson could see the rest of the fleet becoming visible as they disabled their cloaking systems one by one. The sight was breathtaking. Humanity's ultimate war fleet, built in secret over decades. "Begin Phase 1, Gibson commanded. Deep within the UES Dauntless, Officer Ryan Garcia activated the quantum communication array, a device that could send instant messages across any distance, technology the Varaxians thought impossible. The message was simple, a formal declaration of independence and a warning. Earth would no longer bow to imperial rule. "Message sent, sir," Garcia reported. "It's been received at the Imperial Palace on Kazinar." Gibson checked the time. 3, 2, 1. The bridge crew held their breath. The Varaxians were predictable in their arrogance. Any challenge to their authority would be met with immediate force. Right on schedule, alarms blared. "Varaxian battle squadron detected at the edge of the solar system," called out the sensor officer. 40 warships, including the dreadnought Eternal Dominion. Gibson's expression remained calm. Everything was proceeding as planned. The Varaxians had responded exactly as predicted, sending what they considered an overwhelming force to crush the human rebellion before it began. "All ships maintain stealth protocols," Gibson ordered. "Let them come deeper into the system." Lieutenant Miller approached again. "Sir, are you sure about this? Those 40 ships could destroy Earth's major cities in minutes." Gibson turned to face his crew, his weathered face showing confidence rather than fear. "The Varaxians see what we want them to see. They think they're facing a desperate last stand by a primitive species. They don't realize they're walking into a trap generations in the making." He looked back at the stars, at the enemy ships moving closer, completely unaware that the human fleet surrounded them from all sides, invisible and waiting. "Today," Gibson said quietly, "everything changes." Chief Engineer Olivia Bell wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked inside the huge engine room of the UES Dauntless. Around her, dozens of engineers checked systems and monitored displays. The air hummed with energy from the ship's revolutionary power core. "Final test sequence starting now," Olivia announced. She pressed her hand against the security scanner, then entered a series of commands. The massive quantum displacement drive that filled the center of the room began to glow with a soft blue light. Captain William Hayes entered the engine room, his eyes widening at the sight of the glowing machine. "Will it work?" he asked, unable to hide the worry in his voice. Olivia smiled with confidence. It will do more than work, Captain. It will change everything. She gestured to the complex machinery. The Varaxians think they know all our capabilities. They've seen our older ships, the ones we let them see. But this, she patted the drive's outer casing. This is something they can't even imagine. Hayes moved closer, lowering his voice. Explain it to me again. How is this different from their jump technology? Their ships can make one jump through space every 12 hours, Olivia said. It's like they need to rest between jumps. Our KDD can make 3 jumps back to back with only minutes between each one. Her eyes sparkled with pride. And we can go twice as far with each jump. Hayes whistled quietly. That's why Admiral Gibson is so confident. The Varaxians think they know where we can be and how fast we can move. Exactly, Olivia nodded. But that's not our only advantage. She led the captain to another section of the engine room where a team was monitoring a different system. Above them, a holographic display showed complex, shifting patterns of energy. This is what will really surprise them, Olivia explained. We didn't just copy their shield technology. We completely reimagined it. Hayes studied the display. What am I looking at? A cascading frequency shield, Olivia said. Varaxian weapons are designed to cut through shields that operate on a single frequency. Our shields constantly change frequency in a pattern that their weapons can't adapt to. You're saying their weapons won't hurt us? Hayes asked in disbelief. I'm saying their weapons will be much less effective, Olivia corrected. One hit from their heavy cannons might take down 20% of our shields instead of destroying us completely. It gives us time to fight back. A young engineer named Kyle Rogers approached with a tablet. Chief, all systems are green. The drive is ready for combat operations. Olivia took the tablet and reviewed the data. Perfect. She turned to Captain Hayes. We're ready, sir. 30 years of secret work, all leading to this moment. Hayes nodded solemnly. The Varaxians gave us some of their technology as gifts, thinking we could never truly understand it. They thought we were just clever animals. Their mistake, Olivia said. We didn't just understand their technology. We made it better. Through the ship's communication system, Admiral Gibson's voice suddenly filled the engine room. All personnel, battle stations. Enemy fleet has entered the trap zone. Prepare for Operation Thunderstrike. The engine room erupted into controlled activity. Engineers moved to their positions with practiced efficiency. Captain Hayes headed for the door. Looks like it's time to show the Empire what humans can really do. Olivia turned back to her team. Power up the QDD to standby. Shield harmonics to combat mode. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Let's rewrite the future. Throughout the hidden human fleet, similar scenes played out as Earth's finest prepared to unleash technology that would leave the Galactic Empire in terror. Commander Jack Nelson held his breath as he watched the enemy ships on the main screen of the UES Phantom. The Varaxian warships were massive, their hulls covered with strange symbols and powerful weapons. The largest ship, the dreadnought Eternal Dominion, was 5 times the size of the Phantom. Distance, Nelson asked quietly. 8 kilometers in closing, sir, replied Navigator Peter Wong. They still don't see us. Nelson nodded. The Phantom and 30 other stealth cruisers were hiding near Saturn's rings, completely invisible to Varaxian sensors. The human-developed cloaking technology was working perfectly. All weapons hot and ready, reported Weapons Officer Laura Reed. Her fingers hovered over the firing controls. Targeting solutions locked for all enemy vessels. Nelson checked the tactical map. The Varaxian battle squadron had moved exactly where Admiral Gibson wanted them, deep into the solar system, but far from Earth. All around them, hidden in space, waited the human fleet. All ships maintained silence, came Admiral Gibson's voice through the secure channel. Let them come just a little closer. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Fleet Commander Draz looked bored. This was supposed to be a simple mission, crush the human rebellion with overwhelming force. The humans had some ships, yes, but nothing that could stand against 40 Varaxian warships. Any sign of the human fleet? Draz asked his second-in-command. None, Commander. Our sensors detect only their defense stations around Earth and Mars. Perhaps they fled when they detected our approach. Draz laughed. Cowards. Set course for Earth. We'll destroy their major cities as a lesson. Back on the Phantom, Nelson received the signal he'd been waiting for. All ships, this is Admiral Gibson. Execute Operation Thunderstrike on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Nelson gave the order. Decloak and fire. Suddenly, throughout the solar system, human warships appeared where moments before there had been only empty space. The Phantom materialized just behind 3 Varaxian cruisers. Fire, Nelson ordered. The Phantom's advanced rail cannons sent special projectiles racing toward the enemy ships at incredible speed. The projectiles passed through the Varaxian shields as if they weren't there and struck the engines. On his tactical display, Nelson watched as human ships attacked from all directions. The Varaxians, completely surprised, struggled to respond. "Sir, they're trying to lock weapons on us," Reed reported. "Execute Jump 1, Nelson commanded. The Phantom vanished in a flash of blue light, reappearing 3 seconds later on the opposite side of the Varaxian formation. Before the enemy could target them again, the Phantom opened fire once more. Across the battlefield, human ships performed the same maneuver. Firing, jumping to new positions, firing again. The Varaxians had never seen ships move so quickly or unpredictably. On the Eternal Dominion, chaos reigned. Where are they coming from? Draz shouted as another explosion rocked his ship. How are they moving so fast? "Sir, we've lost contact with 12 cruisers already," his officer reported, fear in his voice. "Their weapons are passing through our shields." Draz couldn't believe what he was seeing. The humans were using technology far beyond what should have been possible for them. Order all ships to form defensive position. Call for reinforcements. But it was too late. The human attack was too swift, too coordinated. The Phantom and other stealth cruisers targeted the Varaxian command ships, while larger human vessels engaged the dreadnought. "Sir, the Eternal Dominion's engines are disabled," Reed reported to Nelson with a smile. "The rest of the squadron is trying to retreat." Nelson allowed himself a small moment of satisfaction. Let's not give them that chance. All weapons, continue firing. Within 30 minutes, the battle was over. The mighty Varaxian squadron lay in ruins, with half their ships destroyed and the rest captured or disabled. Admiral Gibson's voice came through to all ships. First phase complete. Prepare for phase 2. Human victory in the first engagement was complete. The Galactic Empire had just received its first taste of true terror. Emperor Kraz stormed into the Grand War Room on the Varaxian throne world of Kazanar. His scaled skin had turned a deep purple with rage, and his 4 eyes blazed with fury. The 12 members of his military council rose quickly from their seats, bowing their heads in respect and fear. "Explain this disaster," Kraz shouted, slamming his clawed fist onto the massive stone table. An entire battle squadron destroyed by primitives. Grand Admiral Vex, the oldest and most respected military leader in the Empire, stepped forward. Unlike the others, he did not tremble before the Emperor's anger. "My Emperor, we have received the full report from the battle," Vex said calmly. "It appears the humans have been deceiving us." "Deceiving us?" Kraz hissed. How could creatures so simple deceive the greatest empire in the galaxy? Vex activated the central holographic display. It showed images of the battle, captured by escape pods that had managed to flee. "The humans have developed technology we thought impossible for them," Vex explained. "Their ships can jump through space multiple times without cooldown. They have perfect cloaking systems. And their weapons." He paused, clearly troubled. "Their weapons can penetrate our standard shields as if they weren't there." The room fell silent. For centuries, Varaxian military superiority had been unchallenged across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. No species had ever developed weapons that could defeat their shields. "How is this possible?" asked General Mord, a younger commander with a reputation for brutality. "When we found them 30 years ago, they had barely reached their own moon." Vex nodded grimly. "It seems they have been studying our technology all this time, pretending to be simple and cooperative while secretly developing weapons to use against us." Emperor Kraz paced around the table, his tail lashing with anger. "I want every human colony destroyed. I want their homeworld turned to ash. No mercy." "We will dispatch the 7th Imperial Armada," Vex suggested. "It contains over 2,000 warships, including 5 planet-killer dreadnoughts. Even with their new technology, the humans cannot stand against such force." Kraz stopped pacing and nodded. "Do it. I want this rebellion crushed completely." What none of them realized was that high above the palace, hidden in the atmosphere of Kazanar, a tiny human drone was recording everything. No bigger than an insect, it used technology far beyond Varaxian detection capabilities to transmit every word back to Earth. Inside the drone control room on the UES Dauntless, Communications Officer Alan Reyes carefully monitored the incoming signal. "They took the bait, sir," Reyes reported to Admiral Gibson. "They're sending the 7th Armada to Earth, just as you predicted." Gibson nodded, satisfied. "And how long until the Armada is ready to depart?" "According to their conversation, 3 days. The fleet needs to gather from different star systems." Gibson smiled. This was exactly what he had hoped for. The Varaxians were reacting exactly as expected, with overwhelming force directed at Earth. But the human homeworld would be empty of military targets by then. "Send the information to the Defense Council immediately," Gibson ordered, "and prepare the fleet for Phase 3. Back on Kazanar, Emperor Kraz returned to his throne, certain that his mighty armada would crush the human rebellion within a week. As darkness fell over the Imperial Palace, he looked up at the stars visible through the crystal ceiling. "Soon, humans," he muttered to himself. "Soon you will learn what happens to those who challenge the Varaxian Empire." Little did he know that those same stars concealed his empire's greatest threat, and that everything was going according to humanity's plan. General Nicole Rivera stood before the United Earth Defense Council in the underground war room beneath New Geneva. The room was silent as she presented the latest intelligence from the spy drone. "The Varaxians are sending everything they have," she explained, pointing to the holographic display showing enemy fleet movements. "The 7th Armada includes over 2,000 warships, including 5 planet-killer class dreadnoughts. They will reach Earth in approximately 6 days." President Daniel Morrison frowned, his weathered face showing concern but not panic. "That's an overwhelming force, even with our technological advantages." The holographic form of Admiral Gibson appeared in the center of the room, projected from the UES Dauntless millions of kilometers away. "Mr. President, members of the Council," Gibson said, "this is precisely what we've been waiting for." "Waiting for?" asked Defense Minister Elena Carter. "You wanted them to send their largest armada to destroy Earth." Gibson nodded. "Yes, because when they send their fleet here, they leave their core worlds vulnerable, especially Kazanar." "You're suggesting we abandon Earth?" Morrison asked, leaning forward. "Not abandon, Mr. President. We evacuated civilians to the underground shelters last week. But yes, I'm suggesting we move our fleet away from Earth temporarily." Gibson's eyes gleamed with determination. "While the 7th Armada comes here, we take the fight directly to their capital." The council members exchanged looks of surprise and excitement. This was far bolder than anything they had expected. "Is such a maneuver even possible?" asked Morrison. "Kazanar is protected by multiple defense lines and early warning systems." Gibson smiled. "They believe those systems will detect any approaching fleet, but they've never faced ships with our capabilities." The Admiral turned to Lieutenant Paul Johnson, the fleet's chief navigation officer, who stood beside him on the Dauntless. Johnson had spent 5 years secretly mapping the precise spatial coordinates needed for such an ambitious jump. Lieutenant Johnson has calculated a series of 3 quantum jumps that will take us directly to Kazanar, bypassing all their defensive positions, Gibson explained. We'll appear in orbit around their capital world before they even know we're coming. Johnson stepped forward, his young face serious. The calculations are complete, Admiral. The jumps are difficult but possible. The council chamber filled with excited whispers. If this worked, it would be the most daring military maneuver in human history. President Morrison stood up. Admiral Gibson, you have my authorization. Take the fleet to Kazanar and end this war before it truly begins. Back on the Dauntless, Gibson gave the order to prepare for the jumps. Throughout the human fleet, captains received their instructions with a mixture of nervousness and determination. Are all ships ready? Gibson asked his bridge crew. Yes, sir, confirmed Lieutenant Susan Miller. All 320 vessels report ready for quantum displacement. Gibson took a deep breath. This was the moment that would decide humanity's fate. If the jumps failed, or if they arrived at Kazanar with even slight navigational errors, the entire fleet could be destroyed. Lieutenant Johnson, begin the jump sequence, Gibson ordered. Johnson activated the QDD system. Throughout the fleet, the blue glow of quantum displacement drives grew brighter. Jump 1 in 3, 2, 1. Now. In a brilliant flash of blue light, the entire human fleet vanished from the Sol system. They appeared moments later near an unmapped neutron star, thousands of light-years away. All ships present and accounted for, Miller reported. Preparing for Jump 2. 2 more jumps followed in quick succession. With each jump, they moved closer to the heart of the Varaxian Empire. No fleet in the history of the galaxy had ever attempted such a bold maneuver. As they prepared for the final jump that would take them directly to Kazanar, Gibson addressed the fleet one last time. We jump into history now. For Earth and humanity. A flash of brilliant blue light tore open the space above Kazanar, where moments before there had been only stars and a few orbital stations. Now appeared 320 human warships in perfect attack formation. The UES Dauntless led the fleet, its massive weapons already charging. In the Varaxian Imperial Defense Center, alarms screamed as confused officers stared at their screens in disbelief. Impossible, shouted Defense Commanders Orcs. How did they get past our sensor nets? How did they reach Kazanar? Before anyone could answer, the first volley from the human fleet struck the orbital defense platforms. The supposedly impenetrable stations exploded one after another. Admiral Gibson stood calmly on the bridge of the Dauntless, watching as the Varaxian Home Guard scrambled to respond. Target their communication arrays first, he ordered. Then disable their weapon systems. Minimal casualties if possible. Unlike the Varaxians, who would have simply destroyed the planet, the human attack was surgical and precise. The fleet's weapons struck military targets with amazing accuracy, leaving civilian areas untouched. Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from multiple Varaxian vessels, reported Communications Officer Maria Winters. Gibson nodded. Accept their surrenders but keep weapons locked on them. Begin landing operations. Below on Kazanar's surface, panic spread through the Imperial Palace. Emperor Kraz was being rushed toward his personal escape ship when the building shook from nearby explosions. Hurry, Your Majesty, urged his bodyguard captain. The humans have somehow reached the capital. Kraz could not understand how this was happening. His mighty 7th Armada was heading toward Earth. How could human warships be here, attacking his throne world? It defied all military logic. The vault. Kraz ordered. Take me to the Imperial Vault first. We cannot leave the ancient weapons behind. As the Emperor and his guards raced through golden hallways, the first human dropships entered Kazanar's atmosphere. Inside one of them, Captain Eric Sanders checked his powered armor one last time. The specially designed suits made human soldiers nearly invulnerable to standard Varaxian weapons. 2 minutes to landing, announced the pilot. Palace defense systems have been neutralized. Sanders looked at his team of 20 elite soldiers. Remember the plan. Secure the palace, capture the Emperor if possible, minimal force against those who surrender. The dropships landed in the Imperial Plaza, and human troops poured out. The Varaxian royal guards fought bravely, but were quickly overwhelmed by the superior technology of the human forces. Sanders led his team directly into the palace, following intelligence from the spy drones about the Emperor's location. They moved efficiently through the ornate hallways, disabling guards with stun weapons. Enemy forces approaching the vault section, reported Sergeant Lily Chen, reading data from her helmet display. That's where he's headed, Sanders realized. Move. The team rounded a corner just in time to see Emperor Kraz and 6 guards entering a massive golden door. Sanders fired his weapon, hitting one guard with a stun blast. Emperor Kraz, Sanders called out. Surrender now. Your palace is surrounded, your fleet defeated. There's nowhere to go. The Emperor turned, his 4 eyes widening at the sight of human soldiers in their advanced armor. For a moment, he considered fighting, but then saw the futility. His empire, which had stood for 5,000 years, had fallen in less than an hour. Slowly, the ruler of the most powerful empire in the galaxy raised his hands in surrender. Sanders activated his comlink. Admiral Gibson, this is Captain Sanders. Palace secured. We have Emperor Kraz in custody. The imperial capital is ours. Across Kazanar, similar scenes played out as human forces secured key government buildings and military installations. The speed and precision of the human attack left the Varaxians in complete disarray. Within 6 hours of their arrival, the human fleet had accomplished the impossible. They had captured the capital of the Galactic Empire without destroying a single civilian building. 3 days after the capture of Kazanar, Admiral Frank Gibson stood in the Imperial throne room. Sunlight streamed through tall crystal windows, lighting up the ancient hall where Varaxian emperors had ruled for thousands of years. Today, representatives from across the empire filled the room, their scales showing colors of fear, confusion, and hope. At the center of the room stood Emperor Kraz, no longer wearing his royal armor but simple clothes. Guards stood nearby, but they were not needed. The Emperor's fighting spirit was broken. Bring the treaty, Gibson ordered. Lieutenant Susan Miller approached with a digital tablet containing the document that would change the galaxy forever. Gibson took it and walked toward Kraz. For centuries, your empire has ruled through fear, Gibson said, his voice echoing in the quiet hall. You conquered worlds, took resources, and treated other species as less than yourselves. Kraz looked up, anger flashing in his 4 eyes. And now you humans will do the same. You have won. Will you destroy our worlds as revenge? Gibson shook his head. No, that is not our way. He turned to address the gathered representatives. Earth could take the Varaxian Empire for ourselves. We could become the new rulers, the new oppressors, but we choose a different path. Gibson activated a large holographic display showing the details of the treaty. Today we establish the Galactic Council. Every species will have equal representation. No more empire, no more oppression. Surprised whispers filled the room. The alien representatives had expected Earth to simply replace the Varaxians as the new rulers. This was something entirely new. The Varaxian military will be disbanded, Gibson continued. Your warships will be converted for peaceful purposes, exploration, trade, and scientific research. They will be controlled by the Council, not by any single species. Kraz stared in disbelief. You would give up your advantage, after what we tried to do to your world. We're not giving up anything, Gibson replied. We're creating something better than an empire, something that can last. One by one, representatives from different worlds came forward to sign the treaty. Even some Varaxian leaders, seeing a chance for a better future, added their names to the document. Finally, it was Kraz's turn. The former emperor hesitated, then pressed his palm to the tablet. "May your wisdom prove greater than ours," he said quietly. Later, as Gibson returned to the Dauntless, he found Chief Engineer Olivia Bell waiting on the bridge. "The fleet commanders are asking when we'll head home," she said. "Everyone's eager to see Earth again." Gibson nodded, looking out at the stars through the viewscreen. For the first time in his life, those stars represented possibility instead of danger. "Set course for Earth, Lieutenant Miller," he ordered. "But first, send a message to all human colonies and outposts." "What message, sir?" Miller asked. "Tell them the war is over. Tell them the age of empire has ended, and a new era has begun." As the human fleet prepared to leave Kazanar, news of their victory spread across the galaxy. Species that had lived under Varaxian rule for generations looked to the stars with new hope. Some were scared, wondering if humans would be better or worse masters than the Varaxians. But as details of the treaty became known, fear turned to cautious optimism. The human war fleet had brought terror to an empire, but in its wake came something unexpected: peace. On the Dauntless, Gibson stood alone on the observation deck. Behind him, Kazanar grew smaller as the fleet began its journey home. Before him lay a galaxy forever changed by humanity's bold action. "We came as warriors," he said softly to himself, "but we leave as builders." With a flash of blue light, the human fleet jumped into quantum space, leaving behind not conquests, but the foundation of a better future for all sentient beings.